we raise your voice. Others may choose to use their platform to barter your interests, viewers, but not CNN News 18. Look around you tonight. Look at what some others are doing. The AI-171 tragedy has fallen off the map. No one's on this story, viewers. It's almost as if the lives of Indians is ephemeral. They mean nothing. A headline for 2 or 3 days, and that's it. We, however, have committed ourselves, viewers, to ensure that the skies are safe for you. Exactly this day, 1 week back, AI-171 Dreamliner crashed. It was the single largest aviation tragedy in recent times. We're still in the dark as to what went wrong. Video footage points to reasons that may be technical or linked to maintenance. The AI-17 craft, it is being reported by some media organizations, though perhaps denied by Air India, was riddled with a plethora of glitches in the days before the crash. We don't know exactly. Despite this, the DGCA has given a virtual clean chit to Air India over its fleet of Dreamliners. But despite the clearance, the airline has more serious questions to answer. Viewers, a leading newspaper today wrote an editorial precisely echoing my sentiments. Viewers, these questions must be posed because your channel has persisted with bringing out facts that no one else is willing to look at. Today again, we're going to present facts that seem to suggest that the airline has not been very open to those from within who have raised some very serious safety concerns. We begin with a matter that is being investigated by the Central Vigilance Commissioner after 2 senior flight attendants reported on May 14, 2024, so about a year back, a serious technical fault with the Boeing AI flight door that had the potential to seriously undermine passenger safety. Surprisingly, the crew claim instead of being commended, they were fired. This is what the former Air India senior cabin crew has said in its complaint to the Vigilance Commission. It said, quote, "To our utter shock and surprise, when we told the AI management the truth that the door was in manual position when we opened, we were threatened with termination. We refused to change our statement despite considerable pressure exerted on us by higher authorities," unquote. The complaint by the crew also mentions that the DGCA too didn't follow up the matter with any diligence, preferring to launch only an informal inquiry. The crew has now written to the Prime Minister of India. This is just one incident. Another senior pilot was sacked without show cause after he refused to fly an aircraft leased by Air India, citing safety concerns due to inadequate oxygen requirement. The pilot sued Air India with the High Court. He claims ruling in his favor and calling upon the DGCA to conduct a thorough reinvestigation. The HC ruling in the operative part is this, viewers, and I quote, "We're of the view this is not a matter of bilateral dispute between 2 parties, but a matter that involves issues of a wider social impact involving flight safety and passenger safety," unquote. So, at least as far as the High Court is concerned, viewers, they took this matter to be a serious one. There is the case of another ex-AI pilot who had written to Chairman Air India, Chandrasekharan, is flagging serious lacunae in training imparted to pilots. The pilot claims he was fired without show cause. Here's an excerpt from his letter. He says, and I quote, "I also brought to the attention of the senior executives with substantial proof corrupt practices in the evaluation of pilots in the annual technical refresher course for pilots. Please find attached screenshots. The in-charge training is the ringleader as can be seen in the screenshots. Instead of taking action, your management has chosen to reward him with a senior position. The crew scheduling department is riddled with corruption, with some staff members accepting bribes to roster pilots on lucrative and comfortable flights, unquote. Now, viewers, we sent a questionnaire to Air India seeking their responses. And just about a few moments ago, we got a response, viewers, to each one of these issues. So on the first issue, viewers, concerning the senior flight attendants who talked about the faulty door, Air India has said, and I quote, the said crew members were terminated for their misconduct and behavior and continuing to falsify critical information during the course of an investigation. The said investigation was launched after an emergency slide was activated while opening the aircraft door post-landing. The two former employees were given multiple fair opportunities to reconsider their statements, which may have been given inadvertently as revealed in the investigations undertaken. It was clear in the investigation that the slide door could not have been activated unless the door was disarmed manual mode. This was corroborated by relevant data, images, and video evidence, as well as third-party experts. It is regrettable that the former cabin crew members are using the tragedy of the AI-171 to further repeat their falsehood, which has been clearly established in our investigation. And then goes on to say Air India is committed to ensuring that there is total adherence to the safety protocols and standard practices. On the second issue, viewers, of the High Court ruling, Air India has come out and stated the concerned individual has been raising alarms with limited basis even before privatization of Air India. This particular matter in question is multidimensional and has already been examined by Air India and external experts. It is entirely incorrect to say that the captain won the case in the Bombay High Court. In fact, the High Court emphasized that they were not expressing a view on the merits of the matter one way or another, and owing to its technical nature, referred the question to the DGCA. The DGCA in turn considered the matter and found that there had been no wrongdoing on Air India's part as alleged by the captain before the court. The captain repeatedly refused to comply with legitimate company requests and was accordingly terminated from service. We rush to reiterate that the safety of our passengers and crew is the foremost priority and there is no compromise on the same. And on the third issue, viewers, the Air India says we unequivocally deny any conscious wrongdoing or oversight as alleged by a disgruntled former employee whose services were terminated in 2023 following misconduct. The individual has explicitly stated an interest in being re-employed by Air India and has been threatening to release this material unless the demand is acceded to. He has used the tragedy of AI-171 to further press for re-employment. Air India will not submit to such threats. Since prior to the takeover of Air India by Tata, the individual has been raising issues at various forums and has continued the same since privatization and his termination. These have been examined on merits by the appropriate governance authority as well as being disclosed to the Air India Board Audit Committee. So viewers, these are some of the statements that have come from the Air India to set the record straight. Viewers, we also have news, of course. Reuters has been reporting this, that there were certain other discrepancies that have been noted on the Air India run Airbus. And here is what Reuters has reported. India's aviation regulator has warned Air India for breaching safety rules after 3 of its Airbus planes flew despite overdue checks on emergency equipment and for being slow to address the issue. So this is, according to Reuters, the DGCA pulling up Air India. Now viewers, I don't know. I don't want to get into the specifics. Is there a culture of preferring secrecy over safety? I don't know. Air India says what it has said. You heard it. These pilots, captains, the crew will stick to their guns. We've also heard that the DGCA has called upon Air India to move some of their aircrafts off the roster, especially their wide-bodied aircrafts. And this matter has also been taken up at the highest levels. In fact, Air India has issued a press release talking about this issue. And it says, furtherance to press statement released yesterday, 18 June 2025, which announced a temporary reduction in services operated by Boeing 787 and 777 aircraft. We wish to provide details on the flight affected. These reductions will be effective from 21st June 2025, which is in 2 days, and until at least 15th July 2025. The reductions arise from the decision to voluntarily undertake enhanced pre-flight safety checks as well as accommodate additional flight durations arising from airspace closures in the Middle East. The objective is to restore schedule stability and minimizing last-minute inconvenience to passengers. Operational part is reductions arise from the decision to voluntarily undertake enhanced pre-flight safety checks. This is also because the DGCA has called upon the airline to do so. Now, was it because, viewers, the DGCA in hindsight realized that there were problems and that a more thorough due diligence was needed, especially before every aircraft took off? And therefore now some of these aircraft have been derosted. I don't know, viewers. These are fundamental questions. And there are more questions than there are answers. I want to open this up because it's an important conversation, viewers, and I've told you that we will ensure that those stakeholders who run aviation, whether it's the DGCA or the airlines, clear up this mess so that no Indian life has to be lost again. And I want to begin, viewers, with some of our guests. Deven Kanani, the whistleblower and former senior Air India commander, who has been referred to by Air India as a person who is habituated to coming out and making all sorts of accusations, is here with us. How do you respond, Mr. Kanani, Captain Kanani, to what the Air India has said?
Yeah, so as far as they are saying that I am not complying to their request, but I cannot comply to their request for conducting illegal flights, which are illegal to that extent that you're putting the lives of passengers in danger. You're not carrying enough oxygen on that particular route. In case if you face depressurization, you don't have enough stored breathing oxygen for the passengers. So I cannot do anything illegal just because they have to request me, and they did not conduct an inquiry before terminating me, and that is a part of the labor court. I'm not looking. That is an issue that is being handled by the labor court. I did not go with that issue in the High Court. I went to the High Court saying that they are doing these illegal and dangerous flights, and I had to convince the judge that the order of 1.1 crore that they had fined, that DGCA fined them, is not adequate and it's not correct, and they've not done a proper investigation.
No, so are you saying that the DGCA, acting on your complaint, fined Air India 1.1 crore? Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly true. And even that order was supposed to be disseminated to all the airlines and all the stakeholders so that it should not be repeated by some other airline. But they haven't given me the order, although I am the complainant. The DGCA is not giving me the order. And secondly, even today, those flights are going on. So that's why I went to court saying that despite the order, the flights are still continuing. The order has no effect. It has not stopped them from continuing with those illegal and dangerous flights. It is that they are doing it willingly and intentionally and deliberately.
So basically, what you're telling me, and correct me if I'm wrong, and thank you for joining us. I know that this morning you were reluctant to do so. And I have to say, viewers, Captain told me he didn't want any publicity. He said he's not the type of person who's looking here to grab the headlines. I'd rather let my work speak for me. So I'm glad, sir, that you have come up and decided to speak. You've been accused of raising alarms with limited basis even before privatization of Air India. But you're saying that when you raised this alarm, the DGCA actually accepted the bona fides of your complaint and filed Air India 1.1 crore. That's what you're saying. And you went to the High Court saying this is not adequate.
No, after that, the Air India has appealed against that order with the DGCA, and they have lost in the appeal. There is another order. In the DGCA itself, they lost the appeal. But I requested the DGCA that if the matter is going in appeal, please call me and make me a party. Hear my side. But they did not do that, and still they found them found that they did not have any merits in their appeal, and they disposed it off. So the order stood, and then they had to pay the fine.
Okay. Viewers, look, the point is that many people have also said that the DGCA is being reactive. It's not being proactive either. There have been instances, viewers, where certain pilots who didn't have the capacity to fly during fog were asked to pilot an aircraft when the Cat 3 system was in place, and they were fined 30 odd lakhs. And I brought this out to you, viewers, earlier, which suggests that the DGCA thinks that a fine here and a fine there is good enough. So he'll say, look, I'm not here witch hunting Air India. No, this is a duopoly. There are two real main airlines. There's either Indigo, and I'm sure, and we have panelists who will tell us that a lot of these problems, these tendencies to cut corners, etc., allegedly, are also exhibited by other airlines. It's not the first time. We're here to ensure that all of this comes out so that people know what they're flying into, number one, and what needs to be settled. So he'll say it. Will you still accuse me of hyping things?
I'm not the kind who accuses anyone. You and your tribe, some of them, are in accusatory mode most of the time. You're a reasonable guy. You've had a stellar career, including in a channel that you left, to which Mr. N. Chandrasekaran yesterday spoke at length for an hour. And he did not dodge a single question. If you remember, Rahul, on your program, one of the issues you raised, and rightly so, is when will someone from Air India speak? Chandra could have easily had, Wilson or the COO or anyone. He took every question.
No, I'm not passing judgment. No, one second, Suhail Seth. No, he didn't give me an interview. I could have asked some questions too. And maybe I'm not getting into the quality of those questions. I hope they were questions that upheld the public interest. Because I know, I'm not talking about ex-journalist or why. I know that a large number of times.
You should see that interview.
One second. Suhail Seth.
We have to make it all contextual.
No, one second. I would have
testimony today.
Okay,
you have to make it contextual.
So 1 second. I would have wanted a more democratic exercise. I would have wanted the gentleman that you refer to hold a press conference, for example. Invite the media.
I'll tell you why.
Have a fair and open question and answer session.
I mean, you and I both know the English phrase, so I'm not going to repeat it. It starts with "sar" and ends with something that is converted to another kind of poison. But I want to take on what Captain has said. Not take on. What are the issues here, Rahul? Let's place the issues. Let's not get into accusation hyperbole. The issues are, how safe is Indian aviation? I think the Air India pilots and pilots of associated airlines or other airlines are amongst the best in the world. Captain, do you agree or not? They are amongst the best pilots in the world. I'm not even saying they're the best pilots in Asia. Number two, Air India as an organization has had a stellar track record as far as safety is concerned. Number three, the DGCA, which is a regulator, and Captain himself said, they took action, they did this, they did that. Well, I didn't interrupt. You tell me, on AI-171, we are exactly on the 8th day after the horrific crash. Mm-hmm. The investigation is underway. Mm-hmm. Yet everyone is becoming, judge, prosecutor, and everyone is deciding that everything was wrong. A. B. Let me tell you, and I don't want to even get into the merits of what Captain has said because it is not my place. He is entitled to an opinion. He has gone to a court of law. The courts of law have, passed orders, whatever they are. That's up to him. It's between him and the judiciary or the judicial process. You tell me, Rahul, you're a reasonable man. Yeah. And I don't want you to say nice things because I'm saying you're a reasonable man. You've understood the pain, the anguish, and the sorrow that an entire nation has gone through and is going through. The staff, his ex-colleagues, his ex-colleagues, everyone continues to serve the airline and the passengers and the stakeholders with diligence, with care, and with compassion. For God's sake, don't throw the baby with the bathwater. Now you are finding fault with DGCA, you're finding fault with Bombay High Court, you're finding fault with an airline, you're finding fault with the government, you're finding fault with everyone. Do not have, Rahul, you're younger than me, my friend. Remember, do not have a problem for every solution. And as I said, I've known you since you were a child. My advice to you is, this is not the time to play, halla bol. Oh, everything is wrong. The world is collapsing.
No, one second. Listen. No, it's fine. It's fine. Look. No, that's fine. That's all fine.
When elder people speak, they must be allowed to speak. Even Anand allows me to speak. So point I'm making is, this is a serious issue. Let's not minimize it. Let's not bring up everything to the fore. Now, last point. You asked Air India for answers, correct? You sent them a questionnaire. Did they dodge? They replied to you. You tell me, and you are well versed with how the media works and how corporates work. Half the corporates would have not replied to you. They would have issued a no comment or denial or something like that. They responded to you. That is the DNA of the House of Tata qua Air India.
Okay, let's cut them some slack, my friend. It's great. You have been a confidant. No. The last person who said that. Look, I'll tell you where this phrase comes from.
Overtake and override TRPs.
No, okay. Reasonable man. This phrase, viewers, was used by George Bernard Shaw in his play The Pygmalion.
Absolutely.
And it was used in the context of a man who basically was not reasonable at all.
But which is why he kept saying reasonable.
And the point is,
the Pygmalion. The play was just Pygmalion.
Yes, it was Pygmalion. So viewers, let me be very, very clear here. It is not unreasonable to ask questions when a major tragedy has occurred. Because viewers, that's the time when you get into the nitty-gritty. The Indian media has the attention span of a gnat, not even a fly. A gnat, viewers. And I can tell you that everyone is waiting, including those chaps who spun this theory about the pilot being responsible, to find a scapegoat, pin it on them, and get away from this.
Who did it, Rahul? One of your colleagues.
No, 1 second.
Who did it?
1 second.
And wasn't he proven wrong?
1 second.
Wasn't he proven wrong?
So, I'm glad, because you see, I'm glad that you, I'm glad that you are now recognizing that there are colleagues and there are colleagues. No, 1 second. Look, 1 second. Let's not get into this. You see, there are colleagues and there are colleagues, and therefore, viewers, I've said that I won't judge the quality of the questions that were put to Mr. Chandrasekharan. Because it's very easy, viewers, to insinuate that a platform was given to allow somebody to allow somebody to get off. No, hang on. Yeah, that's fine. That's why I'm not getting into it. That's why I'm not getting into it. I've done my due diligence. I've come here. I'm glad that Air India has responded. I can't say whether the response... No, 1 second. You see, it's one word against the other, viewers. So, great that Air India has responded. We've carried it like a very responsible channel, reasonable channel.
Which I'm proud of.
Which you're proud of.
I'm proud of what you've done.
Now, viewers, I want to bring in... You see, as I said, this is not just about one airline. And I want to bring in Yashwant Shenoy, an advocate who has been at the forefront of litigation. And Dr. Ranganathan will bring in the consumer angle here. And I know that he will be upright also. So Yashwant Shenoy, what do you make of the systemic issues? Can we take the DGCA at face value every time it makes a ruling? Is it doing a great job? What about the BCA says? What about the airport authorities of this country? Is aviation really in the proper hands?
Rahul, let me put it upfront right here. AI-171 is a story or a chapter that I have closed in my book. I'm done with it. Why I am here is to tell you what can we all do together to avoid the next AI-171. I first went to the court after AI IX812. That was in 2010, Mangalore air crash. As a lawyer, I had a client who came to me seeking compensation. As any other lawyer, I could have finished the matter dusted myself, and could have walked out. But the only one question that struck me was this: if at all there is a safe place for an aircraft to crash, it is an airport. There is no other safe place for an aircraft to crash. The only and only safe place for an aircraft to crash is an airport. And you tell me worldwide, take the statistics. Tell me one air crash which has happened inside an airport and almost all on board die. Almost all on board die, except for an Indonesian one which happened on an impact with a fuel tanker. But other than that, you take any air crash inside an airport, everybody, almost everybody on board will survive. That is because safety systems are in place. So my quest began from that place. What was wrong with Mangalore? And from that day onwards, I've been doing my research. And please understand this thing. Indian aviation, at the top is the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Then you have the regulator, which is the DGCA. Then you are having Airports Authority of India. And then you are having the airline companies. Now what happens if all the four are compromising on safety? Now comes another question: am I blaming anybody? The problem here is you don't have to blame anybody here, because please tell me what is the expertise, let us say, the Director General of Civil Aviation have in this country. He is an IAS officer. You tell him about an aircraft part, he will wonder where it is. We are having some serious problems. Therefore, you have to understand one thing, that it is technicalities that are there. And even within the, let us say, for example, the Airports Authority of India itself, there will be experts who will be experts on, say, aerodromes, but they might not have expertise in other fields. So the problem here is with technicalities. The people who know technicalities take advantage of it. And let us say, take for example now the obstacles around the airport for which I have been fighting. Why did it happen? It is because you had only a handful of people who were experts on that. They played with it and they convinced the top, and then a lot of other influences got onto the top, and therefore nobody in the country, right from the Ministry of Civil Aviation, the DGCA, the Airport Authority, and the aerodrome operator, nobody has been able to stop these buildings from coming up. I went to the Bombay High Court in 2014. In 2000, so they brought a report of 2010 saying that there were 125 obstacles. I'm in the Bombay High Court. Then in 2016, they carried out another obstacle survey. It came with 467 obstacles. Not my report, their report.
Okay.
Now please see, when the court was sitting on it, the buildings were getting constructed there. Today you are speaking about a new rules which has come up on obstacles around the airport. Let me tell you in very clear terms, they are not new rules. They are the 1994 rules.
So here, this is window dressing, viewers. This is classic window dressing. You pull out old rules, you sort of reinvent them, and you think, we're doing something. This is the problem, viewers. And I want to bring in Captain Amit Singh before Dr. Ranganathan. Captain Amit Singh, you've been hearing this discussion. Air India has come out with its statement blaming all these three individuals, saying that, look, I'm sorry, but they've been irresponsible. They are people who are habitual offenders, this, that, the other. You've heard that. What do you make of this?
See, in safety especially, we say that when anything happens, incident, accident, etc., first you look inwards. Was there something wrong with our systems, our procedures? Then when you're convinced that there is nothing wrong with us, then you look outwards. Here, again, the blame game has started. Nobody's going for the root cause, or since the operations are being continued on 787s worldwide, we need to look inwards that was there something wrong with our procedure which could have caused the accident. So we are
No,
not
let me
looking
ask
that
you a
way. We're not
pointed question,
analyzing the
Captain.
fault.
Let me ask you a pointed question. There are two things. If Boeing says that our aircraft is perfect, does the DGCA have the capacity to fact check Boeing, to do its own technical due diligence on Boeing's claims? Number one. Number two, I want to ask you this. This is fundamental. Do you know the black box might actually be sent abroad? Because we don't have the capacity to open this black box here. Because
There's a clarification.
one second, because the group that is supposed to have done this, the AIB, should have instituted a number of provisions to do it technically, and they have fallen short. So, Captain.
So one, India has not developed the capability to independently evaluate an aircraft.
There you go.
Even though we've had newer aircrafts coming in, the Airbus 350 has come in. So we depend on the FAA certification or the EASA European certification that they must have done it right. For
They
example,
must have
when
done it right.
when the 737s were grounded because of the MCAS issue, DGCA issued a statement that for ungrounding of the aircraft, we will do it on our own. We will decide what is to be done. But when it came to ungrounding, they took the example of EASA, Europe, that they have ungrounded the aircraft, so they must have done something right. They must have done the research.
Viewers, we've been able to take a probe and put it on the south pole of the moon, but we don't have the technical capacity to assess the claims of Boeing. And there are, you know how many aircrafts, viewers, flying in just the Air India fleet of 787? Upwards of 24. Dr. Ranganathan, this worries me. This fundamentally worries me. This shows that there is, I'm not talking about Air India here, viewers. I'm not on a witch hunt. I'm a reasonable man. I'm only saying, viewers, that there is a systemic problem.
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Thank you so much for taking up this cause with vigor, which you have over the past week. I want to say a couple of things. But first up, it is one thing when a tragedy happens. It is quite another when a tragedy is waiting to happen. The first is condonable. The second is criminal. And we, unfortunately, in India are morbidly used to the latter. Week upon week, year upon year, decade upon decade, because no one ever is held accountable. I want to briefly talk of two issues out here. Number one, I'm shocked as you are to learn from Times of India that the black box of the ill-fated Air India flight 171 is being taken to the USA, the headquarters of Boeing that made the plane for processing. Because believe it or not, we apparently don't have the expertise to process a damaged black box. Can you believe it? A Boeing crash black box is being taken to the country of Boeing. If ever there was a conflict of interest, fine. If we don't have the expertise, why couldn't we have selected a nation other than the nation that has Boeing HQ to investigate this black box? B, we can fly to the moon and Mars, but can't process a black box. Number two, take the recent tragic incident of the Char Dham helicopter crash that took the lives of 7 people, including the pilot who was a brave ex-serviceman. Let me give you just the facts. There is no air traffic control. There is no radar coverage. There is no real-time weather monitoring at Kedarnath and many other Char Dham destinations. And yet, we have helicopters flying up to 300 to 400 sorties a day. This is suicide by another name, Rahul. Even kamikaze weren't flying this blind. The pilots are on record saying this is one of the most perilous air corridors that India has, even Asia. So this was not a tragedy, Rahul. This was a tragedy that was waiting to happen. And who has been held accountable? No one. Has the DGCA head resigned? Has he given an explanation? Has the Supreme Court taken suo motu cognizance of the countless lives that are put in peril because of what can only be described as criminal negligence?
No.
Can you imagine no radar coverage? Can you imagine no air traffic control to guide the air traffic? I mean, the macabre irony of wanting to be near God and these choppers literally taking you there. The AAIB or Air Accident Investigation Bureau noted after a fatal crash 3 years ago, same place, to complete absence of centralized flight coordination. Can you imagine? The flights are managed by operator level communication without any regulatory oversight. The last month and a half alone, the Kedarnath route has had 3 emergency landings and 2 crashes. The state might call this heli yatra, which they do, but it has become hell yatra. The government is busy making money from pilgrims as well as from private helicopter operators. Safety be damned. And who is left to pick up the pieces? Just 10 seconds, Rahul.
Yeah.
Women like Miss Ramjeet Singh, wife of the brave Captain Anil Singh, who died in a fatal crash at Kedarnath 3 years ago. The pilots keep flying blind and keep dying, she cries, to no avail. Rahul, time has come for the Supreme Court to step in immediately and take cognizance of this criminal negligence, and for the Parliament to pass a bill making DGCA fully independent and autonomous like the CAG, unlike what is now. Until this is done, this would be just one of countless tragedies waiting to happen.
You know, the greater tragedy is what Dr. Ranganathan ends on. Let's hope that the Supreme Court can come in. Viewers, the Supreme Court should only be interpreting the law. It should not be doing the job of the government. And you tell me, viewers, who from the government has come forth and said, I am responsible? The last time an aviation minister quit, viewers, I'll have to dust the files to tell you. It was Madhav Rao Scindia, the late Madhav Rao Scindia. And do you know when that was?
1 minute. Ram Mohan Naidu visited the accident spot within 3 hours of the accident. A, B.
Okay.
I think today, for once, you've had a reasonable discussion. I don't want to pun on the word reasonable. I'll tell you why. Every one of the panelists has offered a solution.
Good.
Rather than being for blood. No, I haven't finished. And finally, this is the way we need to have discussions.
Yes.
Where
but
rather
the
than
tragedy is
abusing, casting aspersions.
No one is doing that.
come with
The
solutions.
tragedy is
That's what intelligent people do.
Yeah, but
Rabble
Suhail said-
rousers create an environment of hatred and
no,
abuse.
that's why the viewer keeps coming back to CNN News 18 and this show, and that's why it's
that
called the
is
hard
your
facts.
marketing
That's
pitch,
what
but
it's
I'm
called.
saying you'll
That
have
is
done
why
a
it's
great
called the
job.
hard facts. Now, 1 minute.
You've done
Yes.
a good job today.
No, thank you, Captain.
proud.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll put that down in my report card. Yes, Captain.
So the second part of the question was about the black box.
Yeah.
So if the information is correct that it is being sent to the US
Yeah.
and it is damaged, so it is quite surprising because a black box has the capability to withstand 3,200 Gs for 0.65 seconds, 1,100 degrees for 1 hour. And that was housed in the tail of the aircraft. It did not enter any fire. It did not sustain so much Gs. How did it get damaged? So it was a worldwide problem.
Let's not go there
One should
because
be
that's in the
concerned
realm
about
of reportage, speculation. We don't know if it's damaged or not. But the fact that it's going abroad and it can't be deciphered here is more worrying. Anyhow.
Issued a clarification that it's not going abroad.
Okay.
They have issued a clarification.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You know, I know where that thing has come from. That's also, look, let's see. Let's see what happens.
Government has issued a
Let's
clarification.
see what
Who do you want to
happens.
trust now?
Let's see. But they don't have I don't know, because they've admitted that they don't have the expertise. So what are they going to do? Fine, they'll send it to a third country? Okay,
Government
anyhow.
has said, some media reports said it, but we do have the capability. That's what the government is saying. Now, who should we trust?
Let's see, because the last two viewers have gone abroad and we've never heard anything about them after that. Anyhow, I'll leave it at this. Viewers, as we speak, the DGCA had issued guidelines. I don't know if you know this, after the Kozhikode crash. None of them have been, even now. Just go back and check. How many of them have been implemented, viewers? And who is ensuring that they will be implemented? That's the problem. Accountability is missing. We need to fix it. That's the solution.